The San Joaquin Valley is truly a miraculous place on this planet. The 8 counties that make it up are amongst the absolute most productive counties agriculturally in the entire world.
Agriculture, the industry here, it's amazing. It's amazing the hard work that goes into it. We've learned how to do it better, how to make more, how to use less water, use less resources for it, and be good stewards of the land. The Central Valley is special in regards to food production. We are unique in that we are one of the only 5 Mediterranean climates in the world.
This is one of the 5 or 6 climates of the world that help feed the world.
The agricultural activity that happens in our Mediterranean climate is critical for sustaining the rest of the country.
It is that very climate that allows us to grow the diversity of what we grow, to have the extended growing seasons of what we have here. You can plant and harvest a crop almost any month of the year in California, so that makes us very, very unique.
There is, of course, a historic drought. We've never seen a bigger one.
The toughest in recorded history. The worst, they believe, in tree rings in 1,200 years. Yet, that's not the root of the real problem. The real problem is we haven't tackled a lot of issues, and we frankly don't have a sustainable system with or without a drought going into the future.
We're operating on a water delivery system that was designed in the 50s and 60s.
In fact, 1958 to 62, the population was about 11 million. And if you look at the change in population, we're growing up to 40 million.
This Earth has never before had 7 billion people. It's never had 9 billion people. We don't know how to produce the food as we go toward 9 or 10 billion people.
It's very incredible that we're sitting here today talking about a water system that was put in production in the late 50s and early 60s, and look at the massive growth that it's supported. I mean, it really is remarkable. It's an engineering feat that we've gotten this far with that existing system, but we're outgrowing it, and something's got to be done to help meet supply needs and demand needs, because right now they're not coming together.
With the growing population here in the United States and California and the world, we have to produce more food, more efficiently in the same amount of area. We don't have any more area that we can grow food. We have to do it here, and we have to do it more efficiently than what we've ever done in the past.
Water is essential for food, and we're not making that connection. There's been a tremendous focus on climate change, and there's been a renewed interest in food security. But inherent to food security is water security.
We have become very used to the luxury of abundant and inexpensive food. Food hasn't cost as little as it has ever right now in history. If our delivery system and agricultural system fails, food will become phenomenally expensive, and it can bring our economy to its knees.
It's a matter of national security, a matter of national concern. Because we have right here in California, we're blessed to have the food basket of the nation.
The food that's produced in the San Joaquin Valley is consumed all across the country. So this isn't a California-centric issue. This issue is in the best interest of all Americans.
California is the largest dairy state. It's the largest produce state. It's the largest beef state. We're the leader in agriculture, and that all takes water. And you've had, an 11-fold increase in output per acre of crop, and that's all driven by water.
Without water, without the right amounts of water, without the energy to help provide that water, it's really hard to produce food. Out here on the west side, energy is an extremely costly component of what we do. Energy is very expensive, and we're pumping water from very deep depths. So every time energy bills go up, that impacts our our ability to put as much water, because it impacts our profitability as well. And when we're not profitable, that restricts the amount of food that we're able to put on the table.
Our water costs have gone up over the last 10 years. They've gone up tenfold. That's huge. Some crops with high cost water are no longer feasible. We don't have enough water, and the water's too expensive to plant some crops, and so we decide sometimes it's better just lay the land fallow.
Hundreds of thousands of acres have already gone out of production in the valley because of
water shortages.
We've had land permanently retired in some districts, 600, 700,000 acres. So every acre that we lose is really a disaster, and it's a huge loss for food security, and it's a huge loss for the local economies.
And that is going to continue unless we get some more ability to manage our water supply.
If you think about the whole world, a tremendous amount of agriculture depends on seasonal snowpacks in the mountains.
In the Central Valley where we grow crops, the rainfall amounts are fairly small relative to the amount of water the crops need, so they take water from the mountains and they're irrigated.
We call them mountains water towers. They've been providing yearly water to this whole system on a regular basis.
That water storage that occurs in the mountains is a really important part of our California water infrastructure, of our global water infrastructure, and part of our water security. In general, storage of water is central to the water security of a region.
All of the challenges and conflicts that we're dealing with now, which are considerable, pale in comparison to the challenges we're going to face in a decade, 2 decades, or 3 as climate change eliminates our snowpack.
A tremendous number of our storms come in within a couple degrees of freezing. If we have warming temperatures, we have more of that precipitation coming down as rain than snow.
Which means we're going to have flooding in the spring beyond our capacity to capture all of it, and then we won't have snowpack to refill our reservoirs and our surface water as it melts out. Right now, our snowpack in an average year is 1/3 of the storage for the entire state of California, and California is a state that needs storage more than any other state.
Our headwater basins are in somewhat of a degraded state right now, and this is typical around the world, that there's degradation of our source waters. In this forest, we think of too many trees rather than deforestation. What's happened over the past century or more is that we've suppressed fire. In doing so, we're disturbing the natural cycle of maintaining the biomass here, so thus we have denser forests. This high density forest gives us a higher potential for wildfire. It also uses more water because there's more trees there. This last drought showed us that the trees had to shut down because they ran out of water in the soil. They used all the water that was in the subsurface.
Therefore, they aren't very resilient when it comes to either fire or to insect attack or to regular endemic diseases. And those things are going to burn. They are absolutely going to burn.
One thing that's happening in the Central Valley and in our crop areas is that we're using more water each year to irrigate the crops than we get from the mountains to recharge on average.
Groundwater is our resilience to drought. And so we have to take great care to make sure it's there for the next drought and the drought after that and the drought after that.
It still continues to be a major source of water, but during times of drought, such as we've had, much of it shows declining groundwater levels, in some cases as low as they've ever been.
This particular drought, this particular time, we have hit the groundwater so hard, it's now to the point where we know that we have definitely exceeded its capacity for a sustainable future.
We have 21 critically overdrafted basins in the state. Those regions mainly located in the southern half of the Central Valley, and those are also our biggest agricultural production areas.
We're tapping deeper and deeper, and we're depleting the systems more and more. And what accumulated there could have taken 1 million years or longer to accumulate. And we're not replenishing it at any type of rate that even approaches how much we're taking out.
Looking forward, we have to be managing the surface storage systems, the natural systems, in such a way that we're recharging those groundwater aquifers and maintaining the health of the whole system so that good water is available both for communities and for ag and for the systems on which we depend.
Today we're at the Silicon Valley Advanced Water Purification Center. It's a large membrane recycled water facility. We take secondary treated wastewater from across the street at the regional wastewater facility. It flows to us and it goes through 3 advanced treatment processes in order to create a highly pure, enhanced recycled water. The goal of expanding recycled water here in the county is to help introduce it back into our drinking water supplies by recharging our groundwater aquifers.
The groundwater aquifers in particular have been drawn down to the point that there's actually a tremendous amount of available storage space in the groundwater aquifers of California.
To produce this enhanced recycled water, it requires energy. We need pumps to pressurize water for the microfiltration. We need even more pressure to get through our reverse osmosis process. And of course, ultraviolet light is just a big lamp that we're using to disinfect the water.
Purified water is very energy intensive. Statewide, we use roughly about 19% of the electricity to pump water. And for the water district, we use about 90% of our energy is basically pumping out-of-county water.
It takes energy to move water. It takes energy to put that water into storage, whether it's groundwater or reservoirs. It takes energy to move that water to water treatment plants, to treat it.
We are going to require energy as we build these facilities and plan to operate them for the next 50 to 100 years. You know, this is going to be a key part of the process and a key thing that we need to keep in mind as we design these facilities and plan to operate them.
I think it's important to recognize that we have moved from a period of abundance and climate stability to a new era of scarcity of resources like water and climate instability. So the system that was built before us, that we inherited, really wasn't designed to deal with the sorts of pressures that we now face with population growth, water scarcity, and the need to grow food.
There is a disaster looming down the road if we don't start doing business differently. And again, you and I, we're old enough, we're probably going to be okay. But I really have great fear for our grandchildren. I've got a grandson. He's only 7 years old. I'd like him to enjoy the kind of life I've enjoyed. And I'm worried about whether or not he's going to have that opportunity.